This is the Grounded Podcast, episode 5 with Echo Charles, Greg McIntyre.
Greg Train.
Otherwise known as Greg Train.
Yeah.
Greg Train?
Yep. Greg Train.
So Greg Train is a longtime training partner of all of us. Well, how did you guys even know each other? Did you guys just know each other from jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, but...
It seemed like there was some other connection.
Yeah, like Tim, right? Like Tim, we started like hanging out because I know you for like years and years before we were like hanging out and stuff.
Did you know each other pre-jiu-jitsu?
No.
Oh, okay.
We met at the Chula Vista place, right?
Yeah, 05.
At what?
2005. You know that
the
little
Chula Vista, when Dean was teaching in like out of a kickboxing academy for like a tiny one for a little while?
The half of it. Yeah.
That's when because there was a curtain and whatnot.
Yep.
But you, Greg Train, that was not your first grappling experience.
No, I started with Fabio Santos.
But that wasn't even your first grappling experience.
No, wrestling before that.
Yeah, because you wrestled.
Yeah, I started with wrestling in junior high.
How'd you get into wrestling?
I hated bike racing.
Bike racing?
Yeah.
Oh, like BMX bike racing?
Right. So my mom would take us both bike racing, and my brother was into it, and so I had to be into it.
Who's older, you or your brother?
My older brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So he'd take me bike racing, and I just kind of had to go along, and then I finally found wrestling. He was wrestling in high school, and then I wanted to wrestle too. So I did the junior high wrestling, and I did really well. So when you do really well, you tend to like it. So I stayed with it. Yeah,
that's kind of the key with kids. You want to like make them do well with stuff. Mm-hmm. You want to not saying you got to let them win, but you want to let them win a little bit. Yeah. Sure. You know the working dog? You know what I'm saying when I say working dog? Like an attack dog.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for a civilian, they'd call it an attack dog. In the military, we'd call it a working dog. The working dog doesn't lose any scraps. Yeah. Like in training. In training, it always wins. And they hit it with like a fake stick that kind of makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't really do anything. Yeah. Because that dog thinks it can just, when it's out there in the field, it thinks it can kill any man. Yes. It thinks every man is a big wussy, and that thing is just going to rip your face off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the reality is, like, you can get offensive with a dog, and you can beat up a dog because a dog is just a dog. Yep. Right. But sure. I mean, they definitely work.
So where's the balance there? Like with kids, for example, you want them to get beat up like 10% of the time, 20% of the time.
Yeah. I think you gotta kind of follow it. You gotta ride the wave properly, right? Yeah. If they're just starting to dominate, then I think that the goal is that you wanna when they start to dominate and they're just feeling great, then you just give them a little push back down, just a little nudge back down, and they say, "Oh, I need to work a little bit harder." Yeah. You know, I did not do a good job with my kids.
With jiu-jitsu.
It was I know what I'm going to do for my kids because I'm such a great dad. I'm going to make everything so hard that they're going to be tougher. Yeah. Right. But really it was like, oh, Dad, you're going to put us in a competition. I'd put them up a weight class or 2 weight classes, put them up with the older kids, higher belts, and they'd go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, and there's a big difference between a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, right? Like there's a big difference, a big difference. Yeah. So I'd put my 7-year-old kid against a 10-year-old kid, and it's not like he wasn't training hard, but then a 10-year-old kid's 10 years, that's a huge difference. Yeah. And so he'd be all sad that he lost. And of course, I'm thinking, don't worry, it'll make you tougher. Yeah. Hey, don't worry, kid, you'll be tougher. And the kid's like, that was not fun. Not at all. That's why I tell people now, the main goal as a parent with jiu-jitsu or with anything is make it fun. And then to your point, Greg, how do you make something fun? Win. Yeah. Winning is fun. Yeah. Right. So you were in junior high, you started winning, and there's a little bit of natural talent. You probably wrestled around with your brother. You had a little edge over the other kids, so all of a sudden you're winning. That makes you want to train more. When you want to train more, you win more. When you win more, you want to train more. It's a good cycle to get the kids into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now you call it the wave, because if you do it too much, you don't catch the wave. If you do it too little, you don't catch the wave. You know, you gotta modulate, right? Yeah. Like from kid to kid, it's gonna be different.
Yeah, it depends on the kid too, right? Depends on their temperament.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Some kids have the temperament. They want to go against the hardest kids. And then if you have that, then you can push that a little bit further. You can ease towards that side. But if you have the kid that's not like that, then you got to back off and you just want them to have fun. Some kids, it's so weird. I mean, kids are just different, you know? Kids are so different. And you steer them a little bit, but
they're just
they're going to be a certain way, you know, and you're not going to get your kid to be exactly how you want them to be. I was with a group of parents, or a group of men, and everyone's talking about my kid this, you know, didn't do this. And I said, hey, who at this table did what your parents wanted you to do, like in life, right? The answer is not one person. Not one person, oh, I did exactly what my parents wanted me to do. Like, who says that? No one says that. You know, I guess there's some kid that, well, my parents wanted me to go to Stanford, and so I went to Stanford or whatever.
Yeah. Well, some families, they have a tradition, you know, where like the son or the daughter, whatever, follows in the footsteps. That's
true.
The thing.
That's true. No, you're right. Now that I think about it, I've known some families that have family businesses.
Yeah.
Now, not every kid in the family will go into the family business, but there's usually one or two of them. Now, sometimes that's a smart decision, just straight financially, right? They're looking at the business, but also they raised with it, right? They're raised with that type of business.
Yeah, I think that's it. The expectation's just kind of there.
Yeah.
They don't get told to do one thing or another. I remember in high school thinking, like when I was graduating, some of my friends were like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to college because it was just expected. Yeah. For me, nobody went to college, so it's like, that's an interesting idea. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Outside. What did you do straight out of high school?
I played around at college a little bit. Like in college, I took some classes. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I started training and competing. And then I was out for a while, like a year and a half. I got a bad disease in my intestines, and I had a serious surgery. And so I was out. So that.
What did you weigh prior to that disease?
175.
What did you weigh like at your lowest point with that disease?
I think I lost, like, at my worst, I lost like 35 pounds. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I remember seeing you when you were sick, and I was shocked, bro.
Yeah,
you lost a lot of weight.
Dude, that was
and just so everyone knows, because you're not seeing, Greg Train is 100% lean. Like there's no like fat on Greg Train. Greg Train is pure muscle. So yeah, when you lost that much weight, that was a lot of weight for you to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a tough age to lose all that weight because I was 20 years old. I remember coming back, like I just had caught the bug, you know, the jiu-jitsu bug. I was addicted to it, and then I wasn't able to train yet. I had, like, for a while I had an ileostomy bag and all that, but I remember coming back, sitting on the wall at Fabio's, and watching you guys, and it was just the worst few months of my life. That's what it felt like at the time, anyways.
Oh, because you got to watch, you can't participate, kind. Oh yeah.
The other thing is weird is when you get injured, you feel like, or disease, I assume is the same, but you get injured, you feel like it's never going to get better.
Yeah.
It's actually the worst thing in the whole entire world. And you had 2 bicep surgeries too, Echo.
Yeah.
So was your second one mentally worse, or was the first one mentally worse?
First one was worse, everything, mentally and phically.
The second one, you knew what you had.
Yeah.
You knew what the deal was.
Yeah.
So you're, hey, I got this.
Yeah, and like, I knew what I had to do for rehab, and I don't know if the surgical procedure was more updated too, and I had some supplementation too, some joint warfare, not like nothing crazy, nothing like that. But yeah, no, it was the path to recover was way more clear for sure for the second one. Yeah.
What was the deal with that disease? Was there a pathway to where they said you'd be like, okay, you'll be recovered from this eventually?
Before the surgery?
Yeah.
I think they just kind of wait and see how severe it is, and then it was a bad case. So like some people just live with it if it's like a mild case, ulcerative colitis, what we're talking about, and then they could take these anti-inflammatory medications and stuff. But for me, it was really bad. I was losing all that weight, and they're like, you don't have a choice. You need to get rid of that thing. So they took the entire colon out, which fixed a lot of the problem. Like, I still have some issues. Obviously, you need it's convenient to have a colon, but I mean, it's a lot better than having a disease, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people out there that have a mild case of it and they're fine, you know.
So when was that? Okay, so you started training, right, jiu-jitsu, and then how long from the time you started training jiu-jitsu did you find out that you had?
So I think I was pretty deep into my blue belt with Fabio.
So a couple years, okay.
Yeah.
Were you fighting it because you were in King of the Cage? I remember I bought the old King of the Cage videos. Yeah. You know, you buy the DVD set.
Yeah.
So sure enough, I watched that, and this was like, when I was like fired up to be in, because I started jiu-jitsu because I was going to fight MMA. So
Dang.
I was like, oh, okay, watch all the King of the Cages, and Dean was on there. So I was like fired up that I was get to train with Dean, and then I see him on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, my team is so awesome or whatever. You seemed bigger though. Okay, so the question is, was that before?
That was in your head.
Yeah, it was going on for a couple of years, like while I was competing, and then I was young, like 19 at the time, and super naive, and like I was just like, I'll just deal with this. It's not a big deal. And
but that was before the surgery.
Yeah, it was before the surgery. So it took a while to get like as bad as it got to where I needed surgery. But yeah, I was like competing with the disease. And yeah, it was rough.
Dang.
You were ready for competition though, because wrestling makes you so ready for competition.
Yeah.
So ready for jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah, I was at that stage where you remember when you right around blue belt, you just want to compete every weekend if you can. Yeah,
that was a good time.
And then how long were you out with it? I mean, so surgery, boom, how long?
Right, so I was out for a while, and then I had the surgery, and then there was like a second part surgery where they like made what's called a J pouch out of my small intestine to like make kind of like take place of the colon a little bit. Yeah. And then when that healed up, they had to go back in, like connect it to my intestines and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But so
dude,
after
you're just doing straight plumbing inside your body.
Exactly.
Dude.
Yeah. And the way that they talk about it, they talk like they're plumbers. It doesn't sound like super technical.
Man, it's weird. Some of the doctors that do like surgery on your bones and stuff, they're doing construction work in there. They're in there with hammers and chisels and stuff,
saws.
straight up. Saws.
Yeah.
They're getting busy. Yeah. Now you had the plumbers in there, putting together piping.
Yeah, I'm actually in there in the OR seeing this stuff weekly because I'm an X-ray tech.
Oh, that's right.
And I see the orthopods. We got Dr. Luke here training with us. Yeah, those guys, especially the ortho guys, they're just, and the spine guys too. But yeah, they're construction workers. They're in there hammering away. It's not like careful surgical. I guess.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Yeah. So then, when was your first fight? After you had the surgery, how long did it take before you were kind of, all right, I'm back in the game now?
It was at least a year and a half, and then I kept training jiu-jitsu. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna get back to fighting because I fought like with like 2 weeks of jiu-jitsu experience first, like as a wrestler.
How'd you do?
I did good. I have a.
He's like, I won.
Yeah, the video is hilarious. Like,
double leg, arm bar, ground and pound. What'd you do?
Yeah. So I had a few fights. There was you guys, and they're just like, it was like old school UFC. There's like all these different disciplines in there. It wasn't even MMA yet. I'm talking 1999.
Yeah.
And then and so we're fighting. It was in a nightclub in San Pedro.
Get some.
It was not even. It wasn't even legal. In fact,
for sure,
I was told
this is completely unsanctioned.
Yeah. I was told that they were pretending it was like a WWE type of thing, and the results were like predetermined, but really it wasn't. But that's how they got away with like making the fight. And then, but I was 19. I was like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I want to fight somebody.
Do it, but yeah.
So what was your first fight? How did you win?
So I armbarred this guy that was like...
From what position?
From the bottom. The guy... I was
How
on
were
top.
You on the bottom, dude?
I double-legged the guy. I got to show you the video. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So tell me the fight.
Yeah, so we're fighting. I double-leg the guy, like run him across the cage, and I get on top. He's super athletic, strong guy. He's stronger than I am. And then he ends up turning and getting on top, and then I turn for this like super sloppy armbar. And then and I got it, and I was going nuts. It was like because this guy was a champion at that.
Oh,
didn't he like break your cousin's nose or something?
Yeah,
like
he fought my cousin, broke his nose before that. So I won that, and I won another fight.
It's kind of super sketchy. Like I would not want to have a 2 week of jiu-jitsu trained Greg grabbing my arm and trying to in a fight, right? Yeah. How hard were you going when you got a hold of that thing? I bet you were trying to rip that thing off of his body,
as
dude.
hard as I can.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
So that was the first fight.
It was hilarious. I was wearing like biking shorts and wrestling shoes.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
that's old school.
That one, and then I won another fight, and then I actually. The one that I lost there in those, it was like this Dancing Waters like nightclub. Then I fought again against Javier Vasquez.
Oh damn!
Yeah, there, yeah.
Holy
and he was
crap.
I was still a white belt. He's a purple belt at the time, but I had my wrestling working for me a little bit. He actually is a good wrestler also.
Yeah, he is.
But I took him down, and then we scrambled a little bit, and then he got me in this arm bar, and like I like pick him up just like on like a deadlift, and he was like parallel to the mat. I was holding him straight out, and then I like slam him down, and I end up in a triangle, and he finished me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
dude, fighting Javi Vasquez.
Yeah, back then
as a white belt when he's a purple belt, and back then a purple belt was
black.
That's like a black belt today.
Right.
Yeah. You know, they were so rare.
Yeah, no, purple belt was serious.
Yeah, and Javi Vasquez was running stuff on the circuit. You know, he was, you know, because that's in the time when, you know, me and Dean were competing all the time. You were competing, but we'd go up to those big grappling events, and Javi Vasquez would always be crushing people at those things. Yeah,
see, he was like one of the first guys that was at that like a high level of jiu-jitsu, but also had high level wrestling. Yeah, and he was using it in the right way, and he was tearing it up. Yeah,
of life.
There's a lot of those guys now.
Oh yeah, now it's the crazy thing is in San Diego, the girl wrestlers, almost all the good girl wrestlers are jiu-jitsu originally. They're all jiu-jitsu girls. Well, a lot of them, because jiu-jitsu is so popular in San Diego that they start doing jiu-jitsu when they're 10 years old. They start doing jiu-jitsu, and then they're doing jiu-jitsu, and then they show up in high school, and someone says, hey, you should wrestle, and boom, there you go. And they have all that background, and there's not a lot of girls that just grew up wrestling in San Diego. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, nowadays, it's so common that people do both.
Yeah, that's crazy. To start in jiu-jitsu and then go to wrestling, that's unheard of when I started.
Yeah, that's kind of common now. So then how many fights did you have before you had your surgery? Just fighting in random nightclubs, WWE.
No, it was like it's what you're picturing right now. It's like people like people
you know
up against the cage. Like,
this is the 2 years that this is when I left Fabio's. I was in Virginia Beach right now. So that's why I don't remember. That's why I wasn't at these fights, because I was in Virginia Beach from 98 to 2000. And so I wasn't here. So because I remember you, and then I left, and then you were fighting in nightclubs.
Yeah.
Roadhouse. Maybe we should change his name from Greg Train to Roadhouse.
No, I remember that. I remember when you came back that first time. Yeah. And like you must have left right when I started.
Yeah, it was real close.
Yeah, and then you came back, and I knew of you, but then you showed up, and I was like, oh, that's the guy. Yeah. And then
the weird thing was I got my blue belt pretty fast from Fabio, and then like probably when I was starting to be like right around ready for my purple belt, I left. Yeah. And so I show up at my gym with Gustavo Machado out in Virginia Beach, and I trained there, and I trained with Frank Cucci some too. So, but I was training there, but like they weren't going to give me my purple belt, because again, back then you weren't just giving away a purple belt to some dude. You know, you needed to know that dude. You needed to have like a blood trust relationship. So Gustavo probably needed me to be there for another pretty good chunk of time, but I was only there for 2 years. So I trained, and then I came back to California. So when I came back to California, Fabio was looking at me like I just skipped practice for 2 years. He was looking at me and saying, you've been skipping practice for 2 years. You think you're going to get promoted? No, you're back at the bottom of the blue belt rung. So I had stripes. I was getting stripes. Did you get stripes on your blue belts?
No.
I got stripes. I had 4 stripes. I got 1 stripe. When I came back after being a blue belt for like 3 years, I come back. And Fabio gives me a stripe. After like 6 months, he gives me a stripe on that thing. I was like, cool.
You didn't like that.
Then 6 months later, gives me I ended up being a blue belt forever. Yeah. Finally, he gave me my purple belt. Purple belt to me was kind of a big deal. That was the biggest deal to me.
Bro.
I feel like he would make people struggle for the belt more if they were like physical and aggressive, you know?
What are you trying to say?
Like, you're physical and aggressive, so you struggle.
I experienced the same thing with him, because I came in as a wrestler.
Yeah.
And then and so he would like sick Dean on me at first when I was first there, or Higgs.
Yeah.
And just like sort of teach me a lesson, and I love those lessons.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he would, especially if you had some wrestling experience and you were more physical. Yeah. I think he'd make us wait longer.
Yeah, because it's like you can't just roll in here with your wrestling and think you're going to get our belts kind of thing, you know? Yeah, I could see it.
You need to get tapped out a bunch by Dean Lister.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like Fabio would be like, and obviously I can't speak for him, so I don't know, but it seems like anyway, he'd be like, yeah, hey, good wrestling, very effective, but I'm here to teach you jujitsu, so I'm going to teach you some jujitsu. Yeah. Dean, teach him some jujitsu, and then when you learn that, okay, I'll give you your belt. No matter how effective your wrestling is.
At this time, Dean only weighed like 170. Well, by this time he might have been heavier. By this time he might have been up to 185. But when I started training, he was 174. And the weird thing is, I can't say he felt as heavy on top because he didn't, but he still felt heavy. But his was still as strong. Like, you know how he grabs you and you just say, man, I can't move. Yeah. He still felt like that even when he was 174. Even when he was only 19 years old. He was a little kid, and he was freaking strong.
Yeah.
And he had that technique, you know. Yeah. He had that random technique. Okay, so how many fights did you have before you went and got surgery?
Jeez, I'm trying to remember. There were a couple of those fights at the Dancing Waters Club that weren't recorded.
Yeah, they're just unsanctioned.
Yeah, they're not on SureDog or anything. So I had those, and then one Gladiator Challenge, and then like maybe four. But the two before my surgery, I had no business fighting.
Did you win them or did you lose them?
No, I lost.
Is that because you were trying to cut weight and your body wasn't getting nutrition and it was just a total disaster?
It was like at the time, like the disease, it's an autoimmune disease, so sometimes it would flare up and get real bad, and then sometimes it wasn't so bad. And so I would, I'd planned to go to like Denver for this fight, for example. And I went and I was feeling okay, and then because of the flight, or I don't know what it was, like stress, sort of flares it up or something, and then suddenly I'm like pooing all this blood, and like I'm flaring up, and my abdomen's cramping up and everything.
So you should not have been fighting.
No, I shouldn't have been fighting. My cousin was with me, and he was telling me this is probably a bad idea, but he was like tiptoeing around it, you know. We're all the way out here, you know what I mean? Yeah. So but I remember in this on video, I was mounted, and like it was almost like someone reached down and took the batteries out of me. And I'm and the guy's looking at me, just knowing that I'm dead, like mounted. Jeez. And he starts punching me from the bottom while he's mounted.
God.
You know? Yeah, it was bad. And then I had to go to the hospital afterwards. I was in really bad shape.
Is that what made you finally decide, like, okay, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't decide. After that, the flare-up got so bad right after that fight to where I started losing weight, like, every day, like a little bit every day. So yeah, they admitted me to the hospital and started everything. But yeah, so I was able to, like a few years later, come back and try it again.
Years. And when you came back, you had some good scraps.
Yeah.
What did your record end up being?
Jeez, what is it? It's just 10-4.
How many fights did you have in the WEC?
WEC, 2 fights.
2 fights.
Yeah.
Win or lose?
I lost. Yeah.
God,
thanks for bringing it up.
Very sorry, dude. Who'd you lose to?
I lost to the first one was a guy named Budnick, and I was winning the fight for 13 of the 15 minutes, and got triangled. I'm punching the guy on top, and I'm gassing.
Yeah.
Inexperienced, and got triangled. But so there were a few fights leading up to that one that I won, and then there was the one that was featured on the Tap Out episode, and then that one.
That's right.
That one sort of like pushed me into the WEC, which was awesome. You know? But
for those of you that don't know, WEC was kind of the lightweight UFC, not meaning like lightweight UFC, but the guys that were lighter weights. Yeah. They would fight in WEC back in the day, and then UFC bought them, and then they started the small weight classes in the UFC. So you were in the big time.
Yeah, I thought I knew what I was doing too, because you're winning, but then in retrospect, like I had no idea what I was doing. The training's evolved since then too. Now, the way they're doing it now, and I mean, I wasn't trained the right way.
Yeah.
You got to spar more, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I thought my boxing was decent, and then looking back, it was terrible. That kind of thing.
That was cool when the Tap Out guys came.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the skyscrape. Actually, I put those guys both on the C2 rower and said, this is what you should be able to do. And I was kind of talking smack to them, and both those guys grinded it out like their life depended on it. And both of them got, I don't know what they got, but they both got a sub 130, 500, which is respectable. For coming, like Scrape, like you kind of thought Mask would do it because he was kind of, like in shape, walking around with a shirt off like Echo does.
Well, what are you even talking about? I didn't even do that.
He was kind of like that, but then also the thing is, Scrape's 19 feet tall, which does give you an advantage on the C2 rower. And Punk Ass, was Punk Ass down here?
Yeah, he was here.
I don't think he got on it. He said, I'm not doing that. But yeah, then that got you into the W. That's what did it?
Yeah. I think the exposure from that. For sure.
And then to the WEC, then you lost your fights in the WEC.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was hard for you to like have your energy up after you got that surgery. Is that a correct assessment, or do you think you just trained wrong?
Probably a combination, but there's a lot. I could have trained better, could have trained harder, But yeah, it does suck some energy out of you because your body's always sort of, even if you have like a tooth infection, like a small one, and your immune system's fighting it, you have less energy for everything else, So I think I was like constantly sort of dealing with the inflammation process of that, and then it was harder to go as hard as I wanted to go, for sure. But there are other factors. I wouldn't blame it on the disease because the entire colon was gone, so the problem was removed mostly, but there was just a little bit of it left.
And so then what made you decide, like, all right, you know what, I don't think I'm going to fight anymore?
Dang, good question.
Or are you still thinking about getting back in the cage?
Oh, man, I'm washed up. No, my last fight I won, we had that fight. Were you around? It was at Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, I went to that one.
I wasn't. I didn't go to it.
Yeah,
Must have been traveling.
I fought. It was another ex-WC guy, Kenneth Alexander. I fought at Camp Pendleton, and I felt good. I started finally feeling like I knew how to fight, for the first time. And then I did well, armbarred that guy. And
from what position?
From the bottom.
What's up with you being on the bottom?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's crazy to me.
I got on top, but I think because I was striking, I was throwing a lot of punches and kicks, and he grabbed my foot. He's a wrestler also.
Oh, okay.
He grabbed my foot, put me on the bottom, and then I ended up getting me in an arm lock. But and then I think I planned on fighting after that, but then I had a meniscectomy on my knee, and then another one, and then all this time started going by, and then it's like I gotta start doing some adult stuff, like go to school or get education or something.
Yeah, because at one point you asked me, you were like, "Hey man, here's what's going on in my life right now. I could just train.
Yeah,
I could train. That's it, and I'll make a little bit of money from teaching classes and just get by, or I can go to this X-ray tech school and become an X-ray technician." And I remember telling you, go become an X-ray technician, not because I didn't think you could, go for it in the fight world, but because even to go for it in the fight world, you can't. It doesn't just because you become a fighter doesn't mean you're working out for 16 hours a day. It's not 16 hours a day of working out and now 8 hours of sleep. No, that's not what happens. And I said, listen, go there. You're going to get a job in a hospital, which means you'll have good medical coverage. You can work 8 hours a day because it's a pretty standard kind of job that has standard hours. Yeah. So you work your 8 hours a day. And I said, that leaves you 8 hours to train.
Yeah. That's what you said. You basically you didn't say be an X-ray tech. You said do both.
Yeah. I said do both. Yeah, because and I think that's the smartest move. Yeah. Because you think about it, when you're an X-ray tech, you've got a regular income. You can buy things like food. Yeah. You can buy things like wraps for your knees. Because I've had fighters over the years where they've been like, "Hey, I really wish I could get a knee pad." Yeah.
Keep in mind that's most fighters.
That is most fighters, for sure. Most fighters is, hey, I saw you throwing a knee pad in the garbage because it had a bunch of holes in it. Can I have that? Yeah, you can, man. In fact, I'll get you a new knee pad. You can have this one right here. It costs $8. But people, man, it's a tough row. It's a tough row. There's no money in fighting. Not for a long time. I mean, the amount of people in the UFC that have actually set themselves up is tiny. Yeah. Tiny number of people. Most people, and it's better now, of course, but back then,
that's why you have to start when you're young, because there's no payoff. The payoff is life experience and the excitement of it. And even if you do well, a lot of the guys that do well for a while, unless they're the top guys on the billboard, they're still not making that much money.
No. Same thing with boxing. It's the same. It's just you got to be the star. You got to be the star to make money from it. How much are other things like that? Like if you're going to be an actor, do you think most actors are just...
Yes. I think acting is another one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Acting is, because they talk about how most people in L.A. are waitresses and waiters. And they say, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. But I just have to wait tables right now.
Yes. That is the case.
That's the normal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you figure even like full-on SAG actors like who are in movie, I mean, you have that upper echelon A and B list kind of situation. And once you kind of go beyond there, it's
once you're in the C list scenario,
oceans upon oceans upon oceans of actors. Yes, just chilling, waiting tables or whatever.
Musicians, same thing. Now that I think about it, right? Yeah, there's not too many musicians that are just out there raking in the money.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
In fact, most of them aren't.
Yeah.
Doesn't Jordan Peterson talk about this in a way? He talks about the Pareto principle, where it's like you get, and it makes sense. All these, they're all cruising around, waiting tables or bartending or something, and then once they get an opportunity, that opportunity leads to another one, which leads to 5 more opportunities. Then they're pushing opportunities away. So either have nothing, then there's some point there's like a tipping point where they have tons of opportunities.
Yeah. Well, what I heard him say the other day that I thought was funny, he's like, if you're creative, then you're probably poor. Yeah. Because creative personalities are usually not people that are conscientious, which means they're the kind of people that are like, okay, well, I've got to prepare for the next 6 months financially. Creative people are saying, I'll just make it happen. So the creative people are generally poor, is what he's saying, which this actually fits into this whole idea.
Yeah, makes sense
of what it is. So, when did you get your black belt?
Let's see. Was it 09? No?
Before.
When was it? Terrible.
It was right after your so your not the WC fight. Sorry, the fight you did on the Tap Out show. That was the one you won by decision, but you had that guy in the armbar for like a long ass time, and he just was like that. That was it, right? That was
I
a fight.
had a black belt for that fight.
You did?
Yeah. Like right before that fight.
Oh yeah. So
what year was that?
It was not 09.
It wasn't?
No.
Earlier. Yeah, it seems like it was earlier.
I feel like I should know that.
Yes, because Victory opened, or it was called Throwdown Elite in like 07.
Yes.
You got a black belt. I remember the first day you rolled.
We opened the doors for us in 07, but the actual official opening for grand opening was 08, was January 2nd, 2008.
Yes. So you must have either got it in 06 or 07.
You were here. Wow. No. We had this gym when he got it. I'm almost positive.
Nope, 100% sure, because the day he rolled in with his black belt, he was teaching no-gi. And
I wonder
it was at the boxing club.
Okay, yeah. No, maybe you got your black belt at the boxing club.
I did, yeah.
Okay,
it was at the boxing club.
Yeah, there we go. So then, then you got it in like 07. You must have got it in 07. Dang, I only got mine in 05. So
that's cool, because I got my white belt in 05.
There you go.
Joined in 05. That day when you rolled in, you were teaching no-gi, and you put on your gi, and you were like, oh, I'm cold. Let me put on my gi. And put on your black belt. And I was like, oh, I see what you did there. I was thinking in my head, I was like, I dig it, because I probably would have done that thing too, because I had never seen anyone do that before, and I knew what you were doing.
Just in case. You didn't know.
Maybe not me specifically, but I'm just saying, just kind of let everybody know, hey, guys, I'm not a brown belt anymore.
I don't remember that story, but I'm sure it's true. When I first got it, I was excited. I was like,
that was my assumption. And everything. Yeah, that was my assumption, though.
I think I actually got my black belt in 06.
No, yours was 05 too? Because it's weird, more like I'm this super fan, knows whenever. I know that you got yours at that time because I remember it specifically. I know you got yours in 05 because I got my blue belt in 06. And you were a black belt when I started.
Okay. Yes. Now that I remember it. So I think I just got to SEAL Team 3 Task Unit Bruiser when I got my black belt, like a few months. That's what it was. So that was 05. A few months before I showed up, I had that black belt. Damn. I'm pretty sure. But I remember getting my purple belt. I was very excited to get my purple belt.
And you think that was the most exciting belt to get?
By the time I got my black belt, it was kind of predetermined that I was,
whatever.
I kind of felt like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to get my black belt.
Gotcha.
When I was a blue belt, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just never get my purple belt. Maybe I'll just be on this blue belt permanently.
Yeah.
I think that's common. I think like there's a sea of blue belts and maybe less than half of them end up
purple belts.
Yeah, purple belts. But once you get the purple belt, you might as well keep going. And you're probably addicted by then anyways.
Yeah.
But a lot of blue belts quit.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Because you don't seem like the type that would be hung up on like, oh, I need my purple. I want to wear my purple belt.
I literally did not care.
Yeah, and that's a strength because that's hard to get into mindset-wise, or it can just creep in. I was like that until like mid-purple belt. I was like, I didn't know I was going to get a purple belt. Elias just busted it out one day. I'm like, oh, cool, I guess I'm a purple belt now. Same thing with blue belt. I didn't know. But do you think how you were saying like blue belts kind of get stuck in blue belt, do you think it's because they just hit plateaus at that time or they quit? And if they quit, here's my little hypothesis. Because when you're a white belt, it's essentially like you don't have a belt, right? You're a white belt. You can literally come in the first day, you're a white belt. But when you get a blue belt, it's like, bam, you got some color. So some people, they have the payoff. It's like their balloon kind of gets popped. They got their payoff, and they're just sort of less motivated now. So they just sort of fade out. I got my blue belt, I'm good.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of reasons. It's hard to figure out like why people quit because they're all different. But I think when you first get a blue belt, it just like you've just started jiu-jitsu. You're a white belt. You're a zero belt. You know nothing, and then you learn a few things. You learn some basics, and you get a blue belt. Blue belt's the easiest one to get, right?
Yeah.
You learn some basics, and so you're still not fully in the game. You're not like fully committed mentally. Yeah. But then,
I don't know, bro. I was fully committed when I was a white belt, for crying out loud.
Yeah, committed to everything.
Yeah, you're kind of you, so that's different.
No, but for real, you said the same thing. Too. Like the minute you walked in there, the minute you got arm locked the first time, you must have been like, "Oh, this is awesome. I'm gonna do." Yeah.
100%.
But as far as
you the same way, Echo Charles?
Yes, sir, it was.
So there you go.
But,
so you're committed.
But he's talking about the people who quit, who end up quitting.
I'll actually say this, and actually this is a proof, kind of like a question to your hypothesis. When you don't know anything, you're all amped up. That's what's weird is that people lose that hype.
Yeah.
Some people lose it. I never lost it. I still am amazed when I learn something new. Man, I went over a drill yesterday with Dean 28 times, and I just couldn't believe the little details he was telling me on this thing. Just a little coming up on the single from a weird little half guard position. I've been making a mistake for a long time, and there you go. Yeah. And he'd show me 9 little details and then 3 more little details. Yeah. And I just went home thinking, man, I'm so lost. Like I have so much work to do, and I need to get so much better. You know?
Well, I mean, you're like, in a way, like you're like an exception. Even Greg Trainer.
But no, I think what happens is people go, oh, I'm a blue belt now. I can pretty much handle most people, right?
Yeah.
How many people do I need to be able to handle? I will say this. What my first interest in jiu-jitsu was like, well, I definitely want to do this so I can handle myself in a street fight. Well, after 6 months, you can handle yourself in a street fight.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't about handling myself in a street fight anymore. Now it was being able to handle Dean Lister and James Nielsen and Higgs and Craig, like all those old school guys from our crew at Fabio's. I wanted to be able to hang with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people are like us to where they get obsessed, and we're like laying in bed thinking about it every night when we're
doing arm locks to your old lady.
Yeah. You see her, she puts her hand on her hip. There's a Kimura.
Oh yeah, boom.
I still do that.
How you like me now?
Yeah, but I think a lot of people. I mean, I don't think there's any specific like preventable way to keep people from quitting. Some people just don't love it as much as we do.
Yeah. And that's really it.
It's pretty easy. This is what I think. Okay, picture this. You just like a random person, John Doe, starts jiu-jitsu, brand new. Like he goes, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff to learn. And they starts to learn. His wife says, oh, are you going to train tonight? Oh yeah, I'm going to train tonight. Then you fast forward 6 months, and he kind of knows like some good stuff. He doesn't get his blue belt yet, but he's feeling, like, well, I know pretty much the excitement is gone. And so then his wife's like, hey, are you going to train tonight? Because I really want to hang out. And he says, well, you know what? We'll hang out. I'll come home early. Like, so then he just maybe goes, he does like 2 rounds and he bails. Yeah. Then you fast forward a year and a half, he's got his blue belt. There's not much mystery anymore. The learning curve also, right? The learning curve, just like lifting. Everyone, when they start lifting, they get all jacked, they get all strong for the first time. They get that steep curve. And then all of a sudden they get to the point where the difference between, benching 315 and benching 335 takes a lot of work. Yeah. Whereas going from 135 up to 225, like you can get there pretty quick. Yeah. So like that's what happens too. And all of a sudden the wife says, hey, do you want to go out tonight? And he says, yeah, let's go out. Yeah. I'm not trying to blame all the wives out there. Sorry, women. Sorry, ladies. But I know the reason I say that is because I had a lot of conversations with my wife about that over the years. Are you really going to train tonight? The answer was yes. I'm really going to train tonight. Yeah. That's what's going to happen.
But when I say like you guys are exceptions, like we'll just say a normal person doesn't have like strong jiu-jitsu aspirations. Even if they love doing it or, stuff like that, they'll go and, it'll be common to skip like a week of training. I'll just go 1 day this week or 2 days or whatever. And that's like common for a normal person.
That's weird.
You only have, bro, you're weird. And Greg is weird for, like wanting to fight, and not weird like a weird person. I'm just saying you guys are different than a normal person. So it just seems like, once you get a blue belt, you're like, dang, but hey,
there's also like a ton of people that are just full on committed to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Let's face it.
Yeah, but I dig it. But let's say,
when you go into a gym, pretty much at least 50% of the purple belts are in the game.
Yeah,
right, in the game.
Yes, sir. But that's a rare situation where you see more purple belts than white or blue belts. Usually, it's all white and blue belts, and then it sort of tapers off as you go up.
Well, the purple belts are the blue belts that didn't quit.
Yes.
And the blue belts that quit, they never become purple belts. So the purple belts are that's how these guys are serious.
They're serious. They're serious. But with purple belts, there's some purple belts that are training because they like it. It's fun. They know some skills, but then there's purple belts that are just maniacs.
Sharp ass teeth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sharp teeth, exactly.
Yeah, and there's kind of 2 lanes and probably more than 2 where that's it. If you have jiu-jitsu aspirations, MMA aspirations, whatever, you're gonna fly through those belts. Mm-hmm. Like you're gonna boom, purple, boom. That's why guys don't reach purple belt and then sort of quit. They do, but it's really rare.
It's less percentage.
And then brown belt is even more because, guys don't make it to brown belt. And when you think about it, that's why there's the least, probably brown belt, and this is a total guess, but there's probably less brown belts than any other belt. Because once you're black belt, whether you quit or keep going, there's no other. I mean, there's the red belt and all that, and I get it, but let's face it, that's probably the rarest. But when you consider white to black, once you reach black belt, you're a black belt. There's nowhere you don't skill out of black belt.
Yeah.
Typically, so there's gonna be a bunch of black belts, but brown belt is that one that you have to be one of the elite few that stuck with it, and then
and you haven't made it yet.
You just haven't made it yet. Exactly right. So you can skill out of that.
Yeah. No, I would say the other thing that you've got supporting your hypothesis,
yes, sir,
is that you're a black belt forever, basically.
Yes.
So anyone that gets their black belt counts in the pool of black belts. Yeah. Whereas brown belts, it's the smallest number of people that came through all the other ranks and haven't made it to black belt yet.
Exactly.
So are you saying that you're sort of elite now?
I'm so rare, bro. I'm so rare and special.
Brown belt level.
Oh yeah.
Greg Train and I are over here as black belts.
Yeah,
and we're kind of run of the mill.
Yep. Super common situation.
Elite brown belt.
Lose it sometime.
Anyway, it was a good hypothesis, I thought.
Yeah, it was good. So what keeps you going to the mat, Greg Train?
Oh, I love it. I mean,
you've had a couple. You've had a couple big injuries too. You've had a neck injury that was pretty significant. Have you had knee surgery?
Yeah, a few of them. They're all pretty minor. They're all meniscus-related knee surgeries. But one was a repair, so like 6-month recovery. And if you're listening and your doctor says you need a meniscus repair and you guys are training jiu-jitsu, tell them, no, I just need the trim because it won't stay there. Like meniscus repairs are for people that have like regular activity and they're just cruising around, and then it'll probably work. But if you have a meniscus repair, is where they go in there and like the torn piece, they like sew it back down and hope it stays. But they don't understand, like if you're training jiu-jitsu, you're gonna pull those stitches right out, which is what happened to me. And then I had another one, they just ended up trimming it out, which they should have done the first time. When you're young enough, they want you to try the repair, but unfortunately, if you're training jiu-jitsu, it's just gonna tear out anyway.
So go straight to the trim.
Just go straight to the trim.
What's the negatives? What's the downsides of the trim?
The downside of the trim is like the less meniscus you have, the more chance you have to have like arthritis and stuff in your knees later on when you're like 60.
Yeah.
So now, since I've had 3 meniscectomies, I just I'm not gonna run. I'm not a runner. Which is kind of could mean I hate running anyway. So.
Can't do it. Can't do it. My knees.
Keep the knees intact.
But no, I think what you just said applies to like mid purple level too. Like once you get there, it's more than just this thing you do. It's like part of your identity a little bit. And you're not gonna quit. It's like that's not an option. You're just gonna, because you love it. It's part of who you are a little bit.
Here's a. I guess this is the point that I am thinking about, putting your ego in check. Because let's face it, when you get back on the mats after you've been out for 6 months, you're not, you're everyone, we always talk about how I can't tell if I'm getting any better. That's because everyone's on the bus. Yeah. Everyone's on that same bus going the same direction. So you can't tell, like, man, Echo and I have been training and I'm just not getting any better. It's like, no, because we're both getting better.
Right.
So what happens is when you get off that bus, you come to school 6 months later, your timing is off, your conditioning's off, you haven't learned new moves, you haven't progressed your game, and you're going to get beat by people that you were beating, and that hurts. I had my knee hurt, right? And I went from my elbow being hurt to my knee being hurt. This has been not the best year as far as like getting after it in all the ways that I like to. But here's a case in point of the example. So when I hurt my elbow, I could not do overhead squats. I mean, I could not do them. I could not extend my elbow and do it. I just could not do it. So no overhead squats. And that was a solid like 5 months, no overhead squats. Okay. Then right on the tail end of like, I think I can hurt my knee. And so now no squats, any kind. So the other day I said to myself, okay, well, I can do a squat all the way. I have full range of motion. It hurts a little bit, and I can extend my elbow. I'm going to do overhead squats. I was horrible. Oh, yeah. I mean, just weak. The mobility's not there, just all those things. And then I could see, what I saw in front of me? I saw the trap. I saw the trap in front of me. Yeah. I saw the trap. The trap is the ego that says, well, I'm just not going to do them. Yeah. It's not even the ego. It's like, hey, I see how people end up. Well, I used to be able to do this. Because it'd be real easy for me to say, well, overhead squats aren't really that important. It's like, no, actually overhead squats are important. and so what I need to do, what I need to do? Put my ego in check.
Get back on the bus.
And get back on the bus and start with the PVC. The PVC pipe, getting that range of motion back. That's what it takes, man. Yeah. That's what it takes. Yeah. But it's either you see that trap and you identify it, and I see people do this all the time, or you allow that trap to catch you. Yeah. And that when you allow that trap to catch you, all you do is you just rationalize. Yeah. Well, I don't want. It's not. I don't need. Think of the million ways that you can rationalize that. Oh, yeah. Overhead squats aren't that. That's not really. No, it's like overhead squats are good for you. You have to keep doing these movements. Yeah. You have to keep doing these movements. The movements that are hard to do, you have to do them. You have to do them, and you have to keep moving. And so the same thing happens in jiu-jitsu, right? It's real easy to go from, if I'm coming back on the mat, I've been injured for a while. You're going to get beat up. You know guys that you have beat before that are below you in the hierarchy of jiu-jitsu. They're going to rise above you. And that is enough to make some people say, well, you know what? I'm just not going to train. I'm either not going to train with that person or I'm not going to train at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. You know, that's why, like, Gordon's here all the time. Like, he has a dinged up neck. It's bad. But he comes out and he trains. And, you know, he if nothing else, he drills and he goes and learns new moves and practices other moves. And, you know, Gordon is no joke, you know, of a jiu-jitsu guy. Like, if he wasn't going to be laid up for a while after every time he rolled with his bad neck, I mean, dude, you know, Gordon throws all kinds of crazy jiu-jitsu at you.
Yeah, he's good.
And so that's... To me, that's awesome that he says, you know what, I can't roll right now. And I don't know if he'll be able to roll again. I don't know. But I can't roll right now. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I can. Yeah. I'm going to do what I can. And that takes a lot of discipline.
I actually rolled with him last week.
Was it like a live roll or was it like limited? Yeah.
It was a limited roll. So exactly what you said though. He does what he can. So he'll be like, hey, I'm not going to roll with everyone. Yeah. You know, I'm going to grab someone who I trust, you know, and let him know, remind him, hey, my neck's jammed up. Let's do a light roll. Someone who can do a light roll, though, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Because some people, they talk about relaxing, but then they don't. Echo Charles.
Negative. Or with you? No, I'm not relaxing. No, fuck no. And even if I say let's just go light, and I don't go light, that's on purpose. That's a bigger strategy, man.
Oh, you're trying to get the mental game on me.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, but so I think that's like my lesson for this like past couple months has been just identifying that trap is out there, and it's real easy to fall into the trap of, hey, make excuses, rationalize. This isn't important, or you can put your ego in check because that's really what it is. It's really my ego going into check saying, I'm going to get out the PVC pipe, which weighs 0 pounds, and I'm going to start doing overhead squats again because I can. Either that, or you go, you know what, overhead squats aren't that really, excuse.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is like that, probably times 2, because you have that added element of like ego versus ego, because you're going against a person. Like you're doing overhead squats, even at a public gym, you're just like, okay, maybe someone's looking at me, maybe not, whatever. Or at your own gym, it's like, brother, that's no factor. It's just you against you, and then it's like, okay. But you have at jiu-jitsu, you have other people watching, but whatever. But you have the guy you're rolling with. Like you ever get tapped? And we were talking about this today. If you get tapped out by a guy who you always tap out, that's an uncomfortable day right there. It's not good as far as feeling at that moment.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that go into that.
Of course, but I'm saying the primary feeling that you get is not good, man. Yeah. Like when someone below you taps you out, even if you're the same belt, but you always get them. Yeah. You know, like they've never tapped you out before, and then they get you, bruh. It's not comfortable. It's not good. Let's face it. It sucks real bad.
Yeah, but as you were talking about that story today, like whenever I find someone that's going to be good, man, I train with them all the time, try and get them better and try and get me better and try and get them to tap me. That's my goal.
That's very noble and very mature of you, and I get it. But I'm saying, and even you, bro, I was about it's to in say, your brain.
I was about to say to you, don't get me wrong. Yes, and even when you said this to Andy today, like you're like, well, you know, now that you tap Jocko, so that's kind of like it happens. And so it's like Jocko's cool with that. And even Andy's like, well, no, he's not cool. Like, no, like, of course, no. To just be straight up, never mind someone that never tapped me before. I don't like tapping. I don't like getting tapped out by anyone at any time, right?
Yeah, I understand.
I think that everyone in jiu-jitsu, who in jiu-jitsu is like, cool, I got tapped out. No, that doesn't work. Yeah. You're losing. You just lost.
Yes. Okay, so great, Trin. Jocko, you heard what Jocko just said right there, right? Like, basically, I don't like to tap ever, you know, this stuff. And then before that, he was like, gives me a better training partner or whatever, which is, they're both true, by the way.
They are both true.
One is like your higher level maturity, one is the primal kind of situation. Right. And I get it. But here's the thing. You say, okay, let's say Andy, he tapped you out the first time. That was a long time ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now it's like if he taps you out, it's like that's quote unquote nothing new. We'll say it in those terms.
Yep.
So, but as you say, when he taps you out, you're mad. You don't like that ever. right? So you're saying,
yeah, and even mad's kind of a strong word.
Yeah,
I'm not
I get
actually
it.
mad.
Yeah,
It's like you know, whatever.
You don't like it, whatever. Yeah, well, however you want to put it, I'm just saying that thing.
Yeah.
So you're saying, if you tap out to Andy now and you compare that to the feeling, that primal feeling you got when he first tapped you out, or when it was new, you're saying they're the same? Are you saying they're the same feeling?
No.
The first time was worse, right?
For sure.
Okay. So,
sure.
And that's the point.
That's exactly what I said today. What I said today was when you tap someone out for the first time ever, that person, you like crossed into a new boundary.
Yes.
You crossed into the unknown.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you never tapped that person. Think about that. Yeah. Think about how much you roll with someone and you could never tap them. That's kind of crazy.
I don't have to think about that. That's in reality. But please carry on though. But yes.
But I'm saying one day you're going to tap me out and you're going to be like, you're going to feel like that's going to feel good. And I'll be like, well, damn, that was, you know. And then there's the other thing that we talked about today too is, let's face it, if you tap me out one time, you wouldn't immediately be like, okay, the hierarchy. Yeah. But over time, if you started putting the pressure and then all of a sudden you start, you know, you could definitely equalize, right? You could equalize. We're like, well, we're pretty close, you know, that could happen.
Yeah.
But the thing that's cool about when you get tapped out by someone is for me, this is my ego is now, your ego gets submitted.
Yeah.
And so now like, as soon as, you know, Andy's the best example because he's the guy that's really like come the furthest against me. Yeah. Other people are just straight better than me, like Dean. But you know, for Andy, and I will say this, I saw it with Dean too. Like when I started occasionally catching Dean started to be more open and more, trained more loose. And that was a long time ago. But yeah, you know, once like one day you're going to tap me out and then you're going to say, oh wow, Jocko's game is like pretty wide open because I'll be doing more stuff, taking more risks and stuff like that. Because right now you haven't, and so I don't want to give up that little thing, right?
Yeah,
you know, so that's my ego, you know, and it sucks, but that's just the reality of it. The thing that's cool about it is it makes you go like a little harder, right?
Makes me go harder.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, there's some days you come in and you're like, you got the look on your face, today's the day.
Some days.
The big day, well, I guess every day.
Fuck yeah.
No, but there's some days where you believe that.
Yeah.
You have something, Greg showed you something, Dean showed you something, you're like, today's the big day. I got that one move that's going to change everything.
Bruh, that's so true. There's actually a lot of things that you taught me specifically to do against him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, varying levels of success with those ones, but yeah, still not ultimately successful. Nonetheless, though, yes. But here's the thing: I think that's a common thing, though, where you know, like guys coming up or whatever, and then they have that one or two guys in the gym where it's like, I just never can tap that guy out. Like they're just, and if I ever do, and it has a lot to do with their relationship too. Just like
also
how you're
styles.
Saying. Yeah, styles. And as far as
I do better against some people than I do against other people who do better against other people than I do better against them.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some style mixes that play into the whole situation.
Yeah. But like as far as relationships go, kind of like how you mentioned how it's like since, for lack of a better way of putting it, your record against me is perfect. You're like 1,000,000 whatever the wins are, the losses are at 0. Mm-hmm. So either you're undefeated or you're not undefeated. Yeah. So the fact that you're quote unquote undefeated, that's something. That's an additional thing that you don't have. That's our jiu-jitsu relationship. Part of it, part of the big relationship, whatever. So you have that. So there is motivation in you, whether it be immature, mature, ego, blah, whatever you call it. But there is motivation in you to protect that element of it. It's
immature, it's ego, and it's a real thing.
And it's there. Oh yeah, and it's not like you'll be like, hey, I shouldn't do that. Let me take more risks and let Echo tap me out. Like I don't see that happening. Sure, it could, whatever, but I don't see that happening. And that's to me, that is part of the whole game.
Yeah, that's part of the whole thing. And that's
what I mean when it can depend on two people's relationship. And not necessarily whether they're friends or not friends. I'm just saying their jiu-jitsu relationship where it's like, if this guy's never tapped me out ever, like there's something additional in that relationship. For sure.
Think of how many times we've rolled. Yeah. That's a lot of rolls. Yes.
It's so psychological because not only are you wanting to keep the perfect record going, being extra stingy, but like when you end up tapping him one day, or when like the first time you tapped me, so I was ahead of you for a long time, and then you catch me one day, and then your mind is opened up. Like,
yes,
I did it once, now it's possible.
Yeah, that's what
now,
you were saying earlier.
And honestly, I think the roles are different. Like after that moment, like now this person realizes more. It's possible, and so now they're more aggressive, just more confident.
Yeah. I look at it too from the your point of view. Like when Echo caught you for the first time, then it's like, okay, that I don't know that.
Yeah, you don't have the perfect
that thing anymore, is there, right? So it's like, okay, cool, you know. And from your perspective, it's like, okay, I'm gonna try this because I wouldn't really try it because it's a little more risk. And next thing you know, you're gonna have better roles because they're more fluid. And actually, now that I think back, one of the reasons that Dean got so good is like once I mean I probably tapped him out like when he was a purple belt, like caught him in something, whatever. But like after that, he was just so wide open. He would try the craziest things. I mean, he wouldn't care if I caught him. It wasn't a big deal. And so I think that's the ultimate way to progress and that's kind of the way I roll with Andy now too. Like we're just going for stuff. And again, I'll take huge risks. If I get tapped, it's not like I go, cool, you tap me. No, I go, that sucked or whatever, you know. But if it's not that big of a deal, you know, and you get more out of the training.
Yeah. Like an hour later, it's not that big of a deal. On the drive home, you're thinking about like, am I getting worse?
No, man, trust me. No, you're right. Like you have some tough drive homes. If you, to your point, Echo, sometimes you get tapped out by someone, you're like, man, like, that shouldn't have happened. What I do wrong? What am I even doing? Why am I even training? Maybe I should just work on my pistol rifle shooting quals, right? Just let's keep that stuff up to speed because it's. And the funny thing, you want to know the funniest thing about this whole conversation is I'm the guy that tells people like, oh, what should I do with jiu-jitsu? Hey, put your ego in check and just enjoy. Yeah. And I'm saying freely that. It's hard to put that ego in check.
Yeah. Is it? Would you say there's any value to ego in jiu-jitsu, like in the negative way? Like obviously we want to keep our ego in check for all these important reasons, but the competitive people, the people that are always trying to win, are getting better faster. And if you have any, like you're stingy about
no. Ego's definitely good. You need to have some ego for sure. Because if I didn't have any ego, then first of all, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't even be here because ego is what makes you want to come back and learn how to win. You know, man, the first time that I ever got tapped out from jiu-jitsu, I was like, okay, I need to learn whatever that is because this is the most horrible thing ever to have somebody able to dominate you like that. Like that's never going to happen. I hate that. That was pure ego. If I didn't have an ego, I would have thought to myself, well, I guess that guy's stronger than me or whatever, you know, like I don't care.
So no. You don't try to get rid of your ego. You just keep it in check.
You got to keep the ego in check. If you don't have your ego in check, then, you know, there's another thing like we were talking about today. Like if you caught me, you'd be like, let's shake hands and roll again. You wouldn't like be like, yeah, finally. Yeah. And I've seen people do that on the mat. I've seen people go, yeah, you know, like all celebratory because they tapped out their friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's not cool. Like that's just offensive.
Yeah.
So, man, just relax. Like, you know I say it all the time, and I'll say this too. And it's like, hey, jiu-jitsu works. If you do a jiu-jitsu move to me and I don't defend it, it's going to work. I'm going to tap out. That's what happens with jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You know, the ego, here's where the ego gets you hurt is if I go, well, you know, I'm not going to tap to Echo's Kimura, so I'm just going to get my shoulder ripped apart, right? No, like jiu-jitsu works. If you make a mistake, your teammate capitalizes on it, you're going to get tapped out. That's the way it is. Deal with it. And you know what? That's the way life is too. That's the way life works. Like you're not going to bat 1,000, man. It's not going to happen unless you don't get in there. Like I could stop rolling with you right now, Echo. You will never catch me, cool, because I'm never going to roll with you again. Yeah, that would be the weakest approach ever.
Yeah,
you know,
and still ego. By the way, like how you're saying, keep it in check. It's more like if you can control it and almost like harness it, really, in a way, where you have these guys with big egos and they get good fast because they're like real competitive. They don't like to lose or whatever, but it's like that ego is driving them to do that. They're going like forward in the right direction as far as, you know, learning jiu-jitsu and competing a lot of time. But at the same time, if you let the ego control you, it can do weirdo things to you too. Like literally, you can be going to jiu-jitsu and your ego can just tell you don't go to jiu-jitsu anymore. Just like that example.
Oh, right because there. You don't want to get tapped out.
Because you don't want to get tapped out.
See that's I hate that.
Oh yeah,
I hate that. I will beat that attitude into submission. I will beat myself into submission of like, oh, you think you can avoid training today? When I hear that little voice in the back of my head, well, you got jet lag. If you go, you might get caught. I go, oh, really? You need to shut up. And here's the thing. What I think the way I combat that attitude is if you don't go, you're taking a step back. That scares me more than anything. Like, oh, if I don't train right now, that means I'm going backwards.
Oh, learning wise and
stuff.
Yeah,
learning, technique, timing, skill. So if I say, I look at it if I don't train, if I go and train and I get beat, cool. I'm at least like making progress on the mountain.
Yeah.
You don't even go to the mountain.
Right.
Now, it's not just that you don't show up at the mountain. You're going backwards. Yeah. The goalposts are moving. That's the important thing. Like the bus is moving.
Yep.
If you don't even get on, you might get on the bus and get bullied a little bit. At least you're on the bus.
Yeah.
But if you don't get on the bus today because you didn't want to get bullied, that's okay. So you made that decision. You might feel a little better about it today because you didn't get bullied. Mm-hmm. Then what happened is the next time you show up, all the bullies are a little bit stronger than you are. Especially if you don't go on the bus for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I look at every day that I don't get on the bus, I know what's happening.
Yep.
And I don't like it.
No.
So get on the bus.
But that's how though, right? Where that you end up there. And we know, some of our good friends ended up there. Where it's like, off the bus.
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, you got to get back on that hostile bus, and it's even more hostile now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The bus is getting more hostile all the time.
So you think I'm getting on the bus tomorrow? More hostile than today? And I didn't even go on today. I'm not getting on tomorrow. It's going to be more hostile. Then guess what? That bus is even a mile further now.
It's even more hostile.
And now are you going to go the next day?
The bullies on the bus now have knives.
Yep.
And they're going to stab you in the neck.
Oh, yeah. Big time. So at the end of the day, you're never getting on that bus. It's just too far down the street.
And if you do, you're going to have to get on there and you have to scrap back to position. You have to get the PVC pipe out.
Yep.
And start going back up the hill.
Yes, sir.
So that's the way it works.
It becomes so obvious that ego is the only thing keeping you from there. You could only make other excuses for so long. Mm-hmm. And then after all those go away, like 6 months down the road, okay, why aren't you here anymore?
Yeah.
Because I'll be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everybody taps me.
Everyone taps me. Everyone's looking. Everyone's making this big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Even though they're like, we're totally not.
Yeah,
like
no one cares.
Like our friend, who will remain nameless, even though we talk about him all the time on here, he'll be like, oh yeah, he'll say that, like, oh yeah, people, they won't respect my jiu-jitsu or something. He didn't say those words, but it's kind of like that's kind of what it is. But Brad, no one cares. No one cares about that stuff or whatever. No. Oh, you lost a step because you've been out for years. Oh, we don't. Not only does no one care, that's kind of to be expected, and that happens to all of us, kind of thing. We'll make a bigger deal in a positive way that he's there. More so than any shortcomings that he may have developed, So it's like, man, it's all upside for you coming, aside from that one little thing.
It's so true. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They might care at the moment, like, oh, that's interesting. This person is a purple belt and they suck now. They'll get over it. By the time they get home, they have their own lives to think about. They're not thinking about it. Nobody cares. It's not even close to a good enough reason for you not to show up to jiu-jitsu.
Not even close.
And so, I mean, true generally too, just in life. Like whenever you have that feeling, you should train yourself. Like you're talking about. When you get that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, that should be like a trigger to do that thing.
The biggest trigger for me to do is the feeling of I don't want to do it. That to me says, oh, I have that same thing with working out. Like I always look at working out. Like if you miss the workout, you don't get to make up the workout. That thing is gone. It's gone. You never get it back. If you miss a training session of jiu-jitsu, it's gone. That bus went further. Those kids on that bus got stronger, and you didn't.
Yeah. I had that conversation with Jade, actually, your brother, where I invited him to speak at a class I was taking. Anyways, and then he's like, yeah, like right away he said, yeah. And then he told me later, I think we had a conversation later, or maybe it was right then. Anyways, he was saying like he felt uncomfortable for about a split second. And he said, but he's already sort of had that self-talk in the past where that moment he feels uncomfortable, he knows he needs to do that thing. You don't want to say no or make excuses because it's just going to eat at you.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've been kicking it for like a little over an hour. I think the message of the day is get on the bus, keep training. Greg, do you got any social media? You need to make a Greg Train or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I need to embrace it.
What do you have?
At Gregory McIntyre.
Is that's Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Okay, say it again. Spell it.
Gregory McIntyre. Gregory McIntyre's McIntyre. That's my Instagram, and I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same but Twitter I just kind of like cruise. And
some people are leaving Twitter. The bus is leaving them. If you want to talk to Echo, he's at Echo Charles. I'm at Jocko Willick. If you want any jiu-jitsu stuff or supplement stuff, go to originmain.com. And if you want to check out a different podcast that we have, it's called Jocko Podcast. You can go to jockopodcast.com. You can get stuff from Jocko's store if you want us to keep doing this.
Yeah, man.
That's all we got. Go get on the bus, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Out.